Micah's voice cut through the hum of the car engine like a blade, low, trembling, urgent. "Darcy, turn around, now!" My hands froze on the steering wheel as the road ahead blurred in the heat rising off the asphalt. Behind us, the border checkpoint shimmered in the distance, guards waving through cars, dogs pacing along the fences. My heart slammed so hard it drowned out the sound of the radio. "What?" I whispered, afraid of the answer. Micah's jaw tightened, his eyes flicking to the back seat where our children, Howard and Tessa, sat half asleep under a pile of blankets. "Your parents," he said, voice hoarse. "They hid something beside the kids." If you're enjoying this, please subscribe and share. Your support keeps the stories coming. For a few seconds, I couldn't breathe. His words didn't make sense, but the look in his eyes, the mixture of fear and disbelief, told me this wasn't one of his jokes or overreactions. My parents had insisted we take their luggage with us, claiming they'd forgotten a few things during their last trip south. I'd argued, but Mom's tone had that brittle edge that always made me fold. It was easier to agree than fight. And now, with the border just a mile behind, Micah reached into the back seat and pulled the old leather duffel onto his lap. My stomach twisted as he unzipped it. Inside, beneath layers of folded clothes, was a second lining, crudely hand-sewn with a different fabric. Micah's fingers found the edge and tore it open. What fell into his palm made the world tilt. A small, vacuum-sealed package, metallic, unmarked, heavy. He didn't need to say what we were both thinking. Contraband. "Pull over," I whispered, my throat dry. I swung the car off the road into a dusty rest stop, gravel crunching beneath the tires. Micah set the package down like it might explode. "Darcy, what the hell is this?" he demanded, his voice shaking. "Tell me your parents didn't—" I couldn't answer. My mind reeled through memories, connecting dots I'd ignored for years. The last-minute favors, the mysterious envelopes, the trips that always ended with my father's errands, the guilt trips when I questioned them. "After everything we've done for you, Darcy, you can't do one small thing for your family?" Mom would say, her voice syrupy with control. Micah pressed his palms against his face, groaning. "We could have been arrested, with our kids in the car." The words stabbed deep. My entire body trembled as I stared at the road ahead, the border fading behind us, the weight of betrayal settling in. My parents had used me my whole life, but this was unforgivable. "We have to go to the police," Micah said. But even as he spoke, headlights swept across us from behind. A familiar silver SUV pulled into the lot, slowing as it approached. My heart stopped. My parents. "They followed us?" I whispered. Micah grabbed my hand. "Drive." But my body moved too slowly, shock freezing my limbs. The SUV door opened and my father stepped out, his silhouette framed by the desert light. "Darcy," he called, his tone calm but dangerous. "We need to talk." My mother's voice followed, softer but sharp. "Sweetheart, there's been a misunderstanding." Micah leaned close. "They can't know we opened the bag. Just go." I shifted into drive, but Dad raised a hand. "If you leave now, Darcy, you'll regret it." That old threat, the one he'd used my whole life to control me, rang out again. My pulse spiked. I slammed the accelerator, gravel sprayed against their car as we sped off. In the rearview mirror, I saw Mom clutching her husband's arm, her mouth forming words I couldn't hear. I didn't stop driving until we reached the motel 2 towns over. Inside, Micah double-locked the door while I sank onto the edge of the bed, my hands shaking uncontrollably. He sat beside me, silent for a long time before speaking. "We can't go back there," he said finally. "Not until we know what's going on." I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. My parents had crossed boundaries before, financial manipulation, emotional blackmail, but this was a line I couldn't ignore. They hadn't just endangered me, they'd risked my children's lives. I pulled out my phone and saw a text from Mom waiting. "Everything is fine, just return the bag." I turned the screen toward Micah. "They're still pretending nothing's wrong." His eyes darkened. "Then it's time we stop pretending too." The next morning, while the kids slept, I opened the duffel again and photographed everything, every item, every detail. Micah sent the images to a friend in law enforcement. Within an hour, he called back. "You were right to leave. Whatever's in that package, it's serious. Don't meet them. Stay away." Fear crawled up my spine. "What do we do now?" I asked, but Micah was already packing our bags. "We go home, drop this at the station, and cut ties." I wanted to believe it would be that easy, but deep down, I knew my parents never let go without a fight. As we drove back toward the city, I replayed every memory of my childhood like film reels. My father's booming voice, my mother's tears that came when I said no, the endless expectation that I would fix their mistakes. I thought having my own family would change things, that becoming a mother would make them respect me. Instead, they'd found new ways to use me, as a chauffeur, a babysitter, a shield. But this time, something inside me hardened. When we finally pulled into our driveway, the air felt heavier. The house that had always been a refuge now carried shadows. I tucked the kids into bed, kissed their foreheads, and joined Micah in the kitchen where the duffel sat on the table between us like a living thing. "They'll come for it," he said quietly. "You know that, right?" I did. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my cousin Delaney. "Darcy, don't go anywhere near them. I overheard them talking. They're planning another trip tomorrow, and they're furious you left the bag." My stomach turned. "They're still doing it," I said. Micah clenched his jaw. "Then it's time we stop pretending too." But before we could decide how, the doorbell rang. We froze. It was 8 a.m. Sharp, deliberate knocking followed. 3 measured hits, the rhythm too familiar to mistake. My father's knock. Micah's eyes met mine. "The kids?" "At Carol's," I whispered. "Good." The knocking came again, louder this time. My pulse pounded as I approached the door, peering through the frosted glass. 2 figures stood outside. My parents. My mother's hair was neatly set, her lipstick perfect, her expression a mix of regret and calculation. My father's shoulders slumped slightly, but his eyes glimmered with authority. "Darcy, sweetheart," Mom called, her voice honeyed. "Can we come in?" Every instinct screamed no, but I opened the door halfway. "What do you want?" Dad sighed, his tone measured. "We need to clear up a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I repeated, the word bitter on my tongue. "You hid something illegal beside my children." Mom's eyes widened in mock shock. "Darcy, please, you're not well. You've been under so much stress lately. We spoke to Dr. Patterson. He's worried about your episodes." My jaw clenched. They were using my own mental health against me now. "I'm fine," I said coldly, "but you should leave." Dad stepped closer, lowering his voice. "It was just a favor for a friend. One last thing. Then everything can go back to normal." Normal made my stomach twist. For them, normal meant control. For me, it meant suffocation. "There's no going back," I said, reaching for the laptop on the entryway table. I opened it and hit play. My father's recorded voice filled the air, unmistakable. "Just put it in your trunk. No one checks family cars at the border." The color drained from their faces. "You recorded us?" Mom hissed. "That's just the beginning," I said, my voice steady now. "I have emails, bank statements, and the school's report when you tried to pick up my kids without permission. Every lie, every manipulation, it's all here." I spread the printouts across the table between us, each one a shard of the truth they'd tried to bury. Mom's lips trembled, but no words came. Dad's composure cracked, fury flashing behind his eyes. "You think you can destroy your own family?" "You already did," I said softly. "I'm just finally refusing to rebuild the ruins." The silence that followed was heavy, charged. Through the window I could see the neighbor's yard, the sunlight touching the swing set where my children would play again soon, safe, far from this poison. "You have 2 choices," I said finally, setting my phone down. "Leave now and never contact us again, or I call James at the precinct." My father straightened, towering like he used to, but his power no longer reached me. "You wouldn't dare," he said. "We're your parents." I met his gaze, unflinching. "Try me." The look that passed between them, shock, disbelief, fear, was something I'd waited my whole life to see. They turned toward the door, their footsteps heavy on the hardwood. "You'll regret this," Dad warned, his voice trembling now, "when you need us." "I stopped needing you," I said quietly, "the moment you put my children at risk." I opened the door wide. They stepped into the daylight, smaller than I'd ever seen them, their control slipping away like sand through their fingers. The sound of the door closing behind them felt like an exorcism, a lifetime of manipulation finally silenced. But as the lock clicked into place, my phone buzzed again. A new message flashed on the screen, and when I read it, my knees nearly gave out. It was from Delaney. "Darcy, they're not done. They're planning something bigger tonight." The air in the room turned thick after Delaney's message, my fingers frozen above the phone screen as the words burned themselves into my mind. They're planning something bigger tonight. Micah was in the kitchen, rinsing the plates from dinner, humming under his breath like he always did when he was trying to pretend things were normal. But there was nothing normal left. I stared at the reflection of my own face in the dark window, the flicker of our porch light behind me, and for a second, I felt like I was watching someone else's life unravel. My parents weren't supposed to be dangerous. They were supposed to be family. But family had become the most terrifying word I knew. I didn't even realize I was crying until Micah turned around and saw me clutching the phone. "It's them again, isn't it?" he asked, his voice low, cautious. I nodded, and he walked over, wiped my tears with his thumb, and said quietly, "We're not running anymore." His tone was calm, but I could see the storm building behind his eyes. We both knew what this meant. If they were planning another crossing, if they were desperate enough to come after us again, we had to end it for good. That night, after tucking the kids into bed, we sat in the living room surrounded by old photo albums, receipts, and documents. Every memory of my parents had a new meaning now, every smile a manipulation, every favor a debt. I scrolled through messages from my mother, sweet words about missing the children, laced with guilt about how much she'd sacrificed for us. Micah read over my shoulder, shaking his head. "They've been using you your whole life, Darcy. They won't stop until you stop them." His words hit like truth and fire. I opened my laptop and began organizing everything I had: recordings, bank statements, photos from that day at the border, messages from Delaney. It felt like putting together the pieces of a puzzle that had always been hidden in plain sight. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I didn't answer, but a voicemail appeared seconds later. I pressed play, and my mother's voice filled the room, trembling and cold. "Darcy, you're making a mistake. We just need to talk. You don't understand what's at stake." Her tone wasn't pleading, it was warning. I felt a chill run through me. Micah took the phone, replayed it twice, then said, "We record everything from now on." We didn't sleep that night. Instead, we waited. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind against the windows made my heart jump. At 3 a.m., headlights flashed across the driveway. My chest tightened. Micah peered through the curtains, his jaw tightening. "It's them." My parents' black SUV sat idling under the streetlight, shadows moving inside. For a long moment, no one moved. Then my father stepped out, adjusting his coat, and walked toward the porch like he owned the ground beneath him. My mother followed, her hair perfect even in the middle of the night, clutching something small in her hand. A photo, I realized, of my kids. Rage burned through my fear. Micah put a hand on my shoulder. "Stay here." But I shook my head. "No, I need to end this myself." I opened the door before he could stop me, and the cold air hit like a slap. My parents froze when they saw me. My mother's expression flickered between pity and fury. "Darcy, please," she began softly. "Let's not do this out here." "Then stop coming to my house. Stop calling. Stop threatening. You brought contraband into my car with my kids in it." My father's face hardened. "You have no idea what you're talking about." His voice was steady, controlled, but I saw the muscle twitch in his jaw, the same tell he had when he lied. "You don't get to accuse us after everything we've done for you." I stepped closer, my voice low but shaking. "Everything you've done for me has strings attached. You used me." He took a step forward, his tone rising. "You think you're better than us now? You think your little husband and your tiny business make you untouchable? No, I said. I think integrity does. I pulled my phone from my pocket and hit record, the red light blinking between us. My mother's hand flew to her chest. You're recording us? She whispered, scandalized, as if betrayal only counted from someone else. You forced my hand, I said. You tried to turn me into a criminal. Micah stepped onto the porch behind me, silent but steady, his presence like armor at my back. My father's eyes darted between us, calculating. Then, suddenly, he smiled, a thin, dangerous smile. You think you can threaten me with that recording. You have no proof. I held up the flash drive around my neck, the one I'd worn every day since the border incident. I have all the proof I need. Audio, video, transactions. You said the words yourself. Just put it in your trunk. No one checks family cars. My mother gasped, realizing the trap had closed. My father's mask slipped. You wouldn't, he said. You'd destroy your own family. You already did, I said, whispering. The silence stretched until he broke it with a growl, turning back toward the car. This isn't over, he spat. But when they drove away, I knew it was. My knees gave out as the taillights disappeared down the road. Micah caught me before I hit the ground. It's over, he said quietly, though neither of us truly believed it yet. 2 days later, we handed everything, every document, every recording to the authorities. I didn't want revenge, just safety. I thought that would be the end of it. But fate had other plans. The morning after the investigation began, I found a letter taped to our door. No envelope, just my mother's handwriting. You'll regret this. Blood doesn't turn its back on blood. I crumpled it without opening the door, shaking with anger and fear. That night, we packed bags again, not to run, but to move, to finally start over. But as I zipped the last suitcase, my phone buzzed again. A message from Delaney. They're trying to leave the country. They're desperate. I felt a strange calm settle over me, the kind that comes when the worst has already happened. I replied with one word, let them. That was the moment I stopped being their daughter and became something stronger, the woman who ended the cycle. Weeks passed before I heard the news. My parents were arrested at the border, just like Delaney had warned they would be. The same officers who once waved our car through now had them in handcuffs. When the headlines appeared online, my hands didn't shake. I sat on the porch, the kids playing in the yard, and showed Micah the article. He read it, then looked at me with quiet pride. You did it, he said. But I just shook my head. No, I said softly. I stopped it. That night, as the crickets hummed and the world finally felt still, I tucked the kids into bed and walked to my studio. The walls were lined with photographs, sunsets, oceans, faces of strangers who didn't know their pictures meant freedom to me. On my desk sat an unopened envelope from the Ansel Adams mentorship program. I tore it open with trembling hands and smiled when I read the first line. Congratulations, Darcy McCarthy, you've been selected. Tears filled my eyes, not of grief, but of gratitude. I thought about the border, the lies, the years of guilt, and how it all led here to this quiet moment of peace. I turned off the lights, ready for bed, but just before leaving, I whispered to the dark room, this time the story ends my way. Yet, as I closed the door, a faint buzz came from my phone. A new message. No name, just a local number I didn't recognize. The text read, "You think they were the only ones involved?" My heart stopped. For a second, all the air left my lungs. I looked toward the window, where the night pressed against the glass like a living thing. The story wasn't over after all. I thought I'd left everything behind when we moved to Asheville. The border nights, the duffel bag, the endless manipulation that once defined every corner of my life. But trauma has a strange way of echoing even in peace. It was a quiet Sunday morning when the past finally tried to claw its way back in. The sky was soft pink over the Blue Ridge Mountains. The air smelled faintly of rain, and Micah was making pancakes while Howard chased Tess around the kitchen. For a moment, everything was ordinary, the kind of life I'd fought to build. Then my phone buzzed on the counter. A message. No name, just a local number I didn't recognize.
They're saying you set them up, Darcy, that you called the border police. My breath caught. I hadn't heard from Delaney since the night she told me my parents were planning another run. I opened the text again, my chest tightening. There was an image attached, a grainy screenshot of my mother's mugshot, her painted face cracked with age and defiance, and below it a local news headline, "Retired couple arrested for cross-border smuggling ring." If you're enjoying this, please subscribe and share. Your support keeps the stories coming. I stared at the screen as the smell of pancakes turned acrid. Micah called my name, but his voice sounded distant, muffled by the thudding in my ears. My parents' story was everywhere now. Headlines, whispers, the kind of scandal that doesn't just ruin reputations, it rewrites entire histories. For the world, they were criminals. But for me, they were something worse. Ghosts that had stolen every version of peace I'd ever tried to hold. When Micah saw my face, he turned the stove off and came closer. "What happened?" he asked, wiping his hands on a towel. I handed him the phone. His expression hardened as he read. "Let it burn out," he said. "It's not your responsibility anymore." I wanted to agree, but part of me, the daughter who once craved their approval, still trembled beneath the weight of what they'd become. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat on the porch watching lightning bugs dance over the wet grass. My mother's voice echoed in my head. "We did everything for you, Darcy." But love, I'd learned, shouldn't come with strings. It shouldn't come with threats, secrets, or smuggled bags hidden beside sleeping children. The next morning, I woke to another message, this time from a blocked number. "We need to talk. It's about the storage unit." My stomach dropped. That same day, curiosity and caution warred inside me. I told Micah everything, and though his jaw tightened, he nodded. "If you need to go, I'll drive." We reached the facility by noon, a small, faded complex just outside town, the kind of place no one pays attention to. I recognized the handwriting on the rental agreements immediately, my father's. My hands shook as the manager handed me the key. Inside, dust swirled in the air like ghosts disturbed. There were boxes labeled family photos, tools, and one marked simply with my name. I opened it. Inside were passports, dozens of them, each bearing different names and my parents' faces aged by degrees. Beneath them, stacks of cash wrapped in rubber bands. And at the very bottom, an envelope. It was addressed to me. "If you're reading this, it means we've been caught." My mother's neat handwriting curved across the page, steady even in confession. "We never meant it to go this far. You were supposed to help us retire quietly. But you always had to do things the right way, didn't you? Always needed to feel better than us." I stopped reading as anger rose like bile. Better than them? No, just free from them. I ripped the letter in half and dropped it in the metal trash can outside, striking a match from Micah's glove compartment. The flame caught instantly, curling the paper into ash. I didn't need their explanations anymore. I needed closure. Over the next few weeks, the headlines multiplied. Federal agents called once, twice, asking if I knew anything. My voice didn't waver when I told them the truth. They used me. They used my kids, and I stopped them. By then, my photography business had started gaining traction. My story, the true one, spread quietly through clients who admired how I'd rebuilt from nothing. It wasn't fame, but it was redemption of a kind. Each photo I took of a family laughing under sunlight felt like reclaiming a piece of the life my parents tried to steal. Still, there were nights I'd wake in the dark, hearing my father's voice saying, "You'll regret this when you need us." But I didn't, not once. One Friday, as autumn painted Asheville in amber and gold, I received an invitation that made my heart stall. A letter from a major art gallery. They wanted to feature my work in their Resilience in Focus exhibition. The irony almost made me laugh. I accepted. The night of the opening, the air buzzed with low conversation and clinking glasses. My photographs lined the white walls. Families, mountains, moments of honest connection. The final image in the sequence stopped people in their tracks. A shot of a little girl's hands releasing a paper lantern into twilight, her reflection shimmering in water below. The caption read, letting go. As I stood near it, a woman approached. "You're Darcy McCarthy, right?" she asked softly. "Your parents, I saw their story on the news." I braced myself, but her voice held no judgment. "You're building here," she said softly. "It's beautiful. Proof that where you come from doesn't define where you end up." Her words sank into me like sunlight through glass. That night, as I drove home, the mountains loomed gentle and eternal outside the car window. Micah squeezed my hand from the passenger seat, and for once, the silence between us wasn't heavy, it was peaceful. Months later, on the anniversary of our move to Asheville, I took the kids hiking. At the peak, wind whipping through our hair, I watched them run ahead, their laughter bright against the valley below. For years, I'd carried my parents' voices like chains. Now, I felt only the hum of my own heartbeat, steady and strong. When we got home, there was a small box waiting on the porch, no return address. Inside, a single photograph, me, age 8, holding my father's camera at a summer fair. On the back, a message in his handwriting. "You always saw more than we did." I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I simply placed the photo in my album, on the page after the acceptance letter to the mentorship program. Proof of what was lost and what I'd gained.
As the sun dipped below the mountains, I realized forgiveness wasn't something you owed anyone. It was something you gave yourself when you finally stopped letting their story be yours. That night, surrounded by the quiet pulse of crickets, I opened my laptop and began a new project, a photo series called Boundaries. Each image would capture not just the beauty of separation, but the power of choosing yourself. Micah came up behind me, resting his chin on my shoulder. "What's this one about?" he asked. "Freedom," I said, "the kind that doesn't need anyone's permission." He kissed my temple, and for a long moment, we just stayed there, the world outside fading into stillness. Later, when the house was asleep, I stepped onto the porch and looked toward the dark horizon where the border once loomed large in my nightmares. Somewhere far away, my parents sat in a cell, perhaps blaming me, perhaps finally understanding that control isn't love. But it didn't matter anymore. I was done carrying their choices. In the morning, I'd photograph the sunrise, not because it symbolized anything grand, but because it was proof that every day begins again, clean and untangled from what came before. And as the first faint light touched the mountains, I whispered the words that had taken me a lifetime to believe. "I am not your fixer. I am not your mule. I am free."